I don't know how many people would have watched Real Lives Edge of the Union if there hadn't been a strike at the BBC. But I'm sure many, many more people watched it in the aftermath of the strike, and I think maybe from that perspective, that was an added bonus for myself and for Sinn Féin. Unfortunately, we do live in a world where the use of the gun is justified. It's justified by governments all over the world. It's justified by Reagan in Nicaragua. It's justified by Margaret Thatcher in the Falklands. It's justified by political parties and political leaders all over the world. And I believe that there are certain circumstances in which the use of the gun is quite justified. And I believe that this cause in Ireland, the freedom of Ireland, to establish an independent Irish Republic, is a just cause.
Don't you think that one of the ways of ending this suffering is to sit down at a table with Martin McGuinness and start negotiating?
No, I think that all those who have lost their loved ones, all those who are grieving, would take that as the most grievous insult. If anyone were to sit down with people like McGuinness and those who planned and executed the murder of their loved ones, the one thing that they don't want is, after all this, after all they have suffered and after all they've come through, the one thing they don't want is anyone sitting down to talk with those people. What they want is those people dealt with so that others won't have to go through the same grief and the same suffering as they've gone through.
What do you mean dealt with?
I have no doubt that all those who've suffered so terribly want to see effective action taken against the IRA. They want to see any measures introduced. And I would say that some of them are grieving so much that they don't really care about the measures. They wouldn't go into the detail, but all they will tell you is that something has to be done. There's got to be something which will finish the trouble once and for all, and the only way you do that with the IRA is to kill them.
It's my pleasure now to introduce the Deputy First Minister, Martin McGuinness, who I know takes a very deep personal interest in the issues that we're debating today, and we all look forward to hearing what Martin has to say.
I've been following around here today, and they've only just appeared for the first time. It's called The Edge of the Union Part 2. I don't know if anybody remembers The Edge of the Union Part 1, but it almost brought an end to the BBC. It won't surprise any of you that come in as I do from one of the most historic parts of the island, the city of Derry, that I believe that heritage is a vital part of how people perceive themselves and others, and it contributes to our sense of belonging to society and our sense of pride in where we live. Heritage can be an economic driver. It can help attract business to locate here rather than elsewhere in Europe. Last week I visited the site of Ebrington Barracks in Derry, where I was told that my portrait was on display for a number of years. Oh, I think there has been a massive change. You know, you could not have guessed at that time where we would have been over 20 years later. Then I was in opposition to the injustices of the British government and the British state. Now I'm in government, I'm a government minister. And I'm in government with other Sinn Féin government ministers with the ability to take real decisions that will bring improvement to the lives of all of our people without exception. So I think that clearly the war that existed at that time is well and truly over, and we're now in a completely different place. And I would hope that I have contributed to that with others.
Well, life has changed to a substantial degree. I don't have police escorts everywhere I go. I don't have to ring the local police to inform them of my advance movements several days in advance in case they would have to take other precautions. It is a much more peaceful, relaxed environment than it would have been the case 20 years ago. Well, I think the environment has been changing gradually from probably the early 1990s. There is a significant improvement now, and people are less anxious. They still take precautions, but there is less anxiety, there's less concern, because as the environment has improved, your desire to have defensive reactionary mechanisms reduces. As fewer bombs go off, there are fewer need to react to bombs, and it shouldn't be the case that people should have to be grateful for normality, but this is the way it ought to have been, and hopefully we won't ever have to go back to the way it was. I'm on my way to discuss the plans for a new supermarket and the problems that its siting is causing to local residents. Oh, David, how are you?
All right.
See you again.
Right.
You all right?
Got the plan
Over here and maybe have a look at the plans.
Okay.
Maybe just in case the traffic comes past there. So this is the current plan, isn't it?
Yes, it is. That's right.
Really, the problem is the delivery vehicles coming at all hours of the day and night.
And 120 gradient going down there.
Which would mean low gears.
Low gears.
Yes, a lot of very high volume noise.
That's right.
Representing people and the problems that they have doesn't change that much over the years. The context around which you're trying to resolve their problems can change. But the need to try and assist them in problem areas is very similar. And the bulk of the residents will be lost. In those days, I actually would have dealt with similar situations like that, but the context would have been under the shadow of a gun. So I would have been having to try and resolve issues like that, but issues that had a security implication, either for the people who were trying to provide the service, or for me who was trying to resolve whatever problem there was.
Really?
Well then, do you want to wait for your colleague, the other resident, and then
I'll be down by 10.
by 10. Right, thank you. We'll see you shortly.
Right.
Okay.
As tourists increasingly travel from all parts of the world to explore this island's history,